But this week, Kia Carens Clavis EV aims to combine family-friendly MPV features with the benefits of electric driving, while the 2025 TVS Apache RTR 310 raises the stakes with a more powerful engine and enhanced performance for thrill seekers. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Sohini Dutt. Kia has been throwing darts at every viable segment in the Indian automotive industry, and most of those darts have been hitting bullseye. In fact, in terms of design and technology, it has been captivating the market, and the latest entrant in the EV space is now the Kia Carens EV. Let's take a look.
Kia has been throwing darts at nearly every viable segment in India's automotive market, save for the hatchbacks of course. And most of them have hit the bullseye. With the new Carens Clavis EV, it's taking a sharper aim at family buyers who want the practicality of an MPV without the looming spectre of diesel bans or fuel price inflation. But the question really is, can a compact electric MPV like this do the double duty of being a comfortable highway cruiser and also be the sensible urban family carrier while providing the kind of range that you expect from this body style? If you have been following the Korean's EV roadmap, the hardware here won't surprise you. The Clavis EV borrows heavily from the Hyundai Creta EV. Same motor, same battery pack with a few tweaks to the battery management system to suit the different weight and the use case. It also means it's a healthy blend of performance and efficiency. It's still front wheel driven, it's still smooth, it's still very silent, and it's got that instantaneous torque off the line like you'd expect from an EV. But more importantly, it's all about how the Clavis EV behaves when it's on the move. It is exactly what you want in a car like this. Not thrilling, but always smooth and responsive. There's a healthy amount of power and torque on offer, enough to keep up with the traffic, overtake with confidence, and handle a full house without feeling sluggish. It's not going to pin you back in your seat when you press the throttle, but there is still instantaneous torque. There is still enough torque to surprise you of how this compact 3-row people mover can behave on the road. Put your foot down and the power is delivered cleanly, especially in sport mode, where throttle response becomes noticeably sharper. Eco mode, as you would expect, dials things back and is best saved for urban errands. The normal mode strikes the most balanced tune, and that is where you will spend most of your time driving. Where the Clavis EV really shines is in how composed it feels. For a tall 3-row MPV, body roll is surprisingly well contained. And a big credit for that goes to the floor-mounted battery pack. The batteries in the floor keep the center of gravity low, and that keeps the car planted when you are driving around bends or even when you are making lane changes, etc. And that also keeps the occupants safely planted as well, especially the ones who battle motion sickness. So travel-hating kids, senior citizens, people with motion sickness, they're all going to secretly thank Kia for it. Ride quality is well judged. There's enough firmness to keep the body in check over bad roads, but not enough to get crashy or uncomfortable. It still irons out speed bumps and rough patches like any good family car should. The steering is conveniently light in most of the driving scenarios. It does weigh up a little bit when you're at highway speeds. It's enough to give you a predictable performance. It's not extremely talkative, it's not extremely communicative, but you're not going to be attacking corners with an MPV like this, and Kia knows that, and that is exactly how the steering has been tuned. Braking is progressive, and the regen system offers multiple levels, letting you adjust how aggressively the car slows down when you lift off. It's not just the electric motors, even the ground clearance has gone up, which is difficult to do with a ICE vehicle that has been modified into an EV. We saw that with the Creta as well. Here also the ground clearance goes up by 5 millimeters, 200 mm total. It does have a bit of an implication in the floor or how you're sitting in the second or the third row. You sit in a bit of a knees up position. So if you're long-legged or fussy about under-thigh support, that is the only complaint that you'll have, but it's not a deal breaker at all. In fact, the space is really good for your feet. Knee room is quite good. Headroom is also excellent. View outside of the windows, whether you are a kid or an adult, excellent again. You also get this blind to get some privacy if you so need. And now because of the panoramic roof with the AC vents having moved to the outside, you get this nice airy feel in here. So long distance journeys, absolutely no problem at all. This is a comfortable place to be in.
Well, the Kia Carens Clavis EV is not only good in terms of practicality, but it's great for highway drives as well. More on that after this very short break. Welcome back. Here with us on Overdrive. Now with the Carens Clavis EV, Kia is focusing on families which want more practicality but also want to avoid the problems of diesel bans and also the increasing fuel prices. Now of course the big question remains that can this small electric MPV not only rule the highways but also be a smart choice for city driving? Let's find out.
The third row is good enough only for kids. And that's the reason why I did not attempt getting in there. But if you must see me in the third row, do check out our reels on Instagram. Compared to the ICE-powered Clavis, the EV variant brings in a reworked center console with better storage solutions, acknowledging that MPVs are all about clever practicality. Now at the front, to again give it the distinction and a bit of that forward-thinking attitude, they've also added these active flaps. So every time you start the car, you see that they open. So this is essentially to improve the overall cooling efficiency while also maintaining that EV look. So when your car is turned off, they will again close off, prevent rodents from entering, messing up with those high tension wires, etc. And while you're on the move, they'll open and they will aid with the cooling, the aerodynamic efficiency, all those kind of things. There's also an engineered exterior sound that plays at low speeds so the Clavis doesn't sneak up silently on unsuspecting pedestrians or two-wheeler riders. It's subtle but necessary, especially in urban traffic. Now to go nitpicking. The seats do not have load cells in them, neither for the second row nor for the third. What that means is it cannot really detect that there is weight on the seat or someone is seated there. And if they don't wear the seat belt, the car is not going to know. It's not going to give you those audible warnings. However, if you have buckled your seat belt and then you remove it while you're driving, that is when it will give you a warning sign. One on the dashboard for the driver's seat belt and one on the little light that you see on top. But it's essentially Kia just skimping out a little bit, not putting that load cell. I'm not happy at this price point. Load cells definitely should have been integrated. We also talked about the slightly knees up position, right? Now Kia loves to give us air filtration systems in their cars, which is a big plus, especially if you are from Delhi. Here, however, they have integrated it at the back of the seat, and with the slightly more knees up position for my height of 5 feet 8, every time I want to get out, my knee hits the air filter and it can get a bit painful. And now for the sticker shock. Rupees 24.49 lakh for the top-end Clavis EV. It's a lot of money for a compact MPV. More importantly, it puts it in dangerous territory, Innova Krista territory. And that's not a comparison you want to have unless you're bringing something really special to the table. Fortunately, the Clavis EV does. It's a lot more car-like to drive compared to the body-on-frame Innova Krista, especially if you're upgrading from a smaller car. This one is going to feel a lot friendlier, a lot easier to drive. It's also got the better cosmopolitan appeal given its features, given all the tech that it packs in. Sure, a lot of those features were sort of held back from the Clavis diesel top end, and now it makes sense. It was all being reserved for the EV to make this the sweeter deal. And looks like mission accomplished. And if you stay in states like Maharashtra, which incentivize buying an EV, you could actually end up paying lesser on-road price for the car than the ex-showroom price. Now that doesn't happen often, does it? Of course, there is the classic EV question. Can it road trip? Looking at what we've achieved with the Creta EV, I think 300 to 350 kilometers of real-world range should be easily achievable even with the Kia. Something like Bengaluru to Chennai, you may not need a stop at all. You will be able to get there. You will be able to reach Chennai with at least a little bit of charge still left in the batteries. Delhi to Chandigarh, you will need maybe one stop somewhere in between. Mumbai to Goa, you'll probably be on a two-stop strategy. So you will have to plan a little bit better. Maybe your favorite dhabas, your favorite joints, they may not have a charging station yet or a charging station fast enough yet for you to have a quick top-up and continue. But Kia, Hyundai, they are rapidly expanding their fast charging network. So you should be fine. I don't think there will be too much planning involved. I think the only planning that you really need to do is exactly where do you need to take those breaks to ensure that you get the food that you want and the top up fast enough for your car. That said, Kia and Hyundai's fast charging network is expanding quickly, and most highway routes should be manageable with a little bit of planning. It won't be as carefree as a diesel tank up, but it will also not cost you Rs 6,000 to fill up. This car is not trying to be the next Innova Krista. In fact, it can't even do that with the kind of space it offers. But compared to the Krista, it offers a much friendlier, easier driving experience, especially inside of the city. It's also a lot more feature-rich, just the way its ICE counterpart is. This one just happens to run on electrons, which means it is smoother still, it is quieter still. Sure, it's not cheap, but with the EV subsidies, with the lower running costs, with the lower emissions, with that all-rounded package that it is, it all starts to make sense. It all starts to show value. And that's very important for our value-conscious market. What I appreciate even more is that the Clavis EV doesn't try to reinvent anything. It feels just as natural as its ICE counterpart, and there is no steep learning curve to understand the controls or how to drive this EV. Everything feels natural and therefore simple, and hence more accommodating to a larger audience. If your idea of a family car is shifting towards something cleaner, future-proof and easier to live with, the Clavis EV is ready to plug in to your lifestyle.
Well, it's time to take our final break here on the show, but don't go anywhere because on the other side we get you acquainted with the 2025 TVS Apache RTR 310. Welcome back here with us on Overdrive. We took the 2025 TVS Apache RTR 310 to a racetrack to just see how it performs under pressure. Now with a more powerful engine with updated rider aids and improved handling, it's time for us to see whether it delivers on its promise of precision and power.
Alright, now when it came to the TVS Apache RTR 310, well, if you ever wondered why you never saw a great deal of them out on the road, even though this motorcycle has a good amount of features and tech involved, well, that is for good reason, because, well, as much as that may prove interesting or very enticing, when it came to the pricing of this motorcycle, many people just simply turned away from it because we are living in a world where 400cc single cylinders are pretty much ruling the roost as far as street motorcycles go. You have options from KTM, Bajaj, Triumph, really good machines, and although they don't offer you the same amount of features as this one does, well, they were priced a lot more aggressively and they offered a better value for money aspect. So now TVS have tried to turn the tide in their favor by updating the RTR 310 for 2025, and here is what this motorcycle now has to offer. So visually, what all is new with this updated for 2025 TVS Apache RTR 310? To begin with, get these new knuckle guards. Second bit is the new clutch cover, which you can now see through. It looks quite funky and cool. I'll just show you how it looks once the motorcycle is actually functioning. Yep. That's pretty nifty, but could be a little gimmicky in some people's eyes. TVS have also thrown in sequential turn indicators onto this motorcycle, which now look quite nice. And as far as the overall design is concerned, well, that is about it with this motorcycle, because all of its external panels are the same as before, still leaving you with a lot to take in visually with this street bike. And although I'm still not a fan of the pillion seats design, I do feel that the new colorways that you have to choose from are a good refresh. I think that the bike looks exceptionally nice, especially with that Italian style split taillight unit and the new race-inspired Sapphire blue paint scheme. terms of features, TVS has now introduced launch control to the RTR 310, which has been borrowed from its fully fed RR 310 model. Then there's the new drag torque control feature, which is meant to improve the bike's overall ride quality. And I'll get to that feature in a bit because it is important here. And also, TVS have thrown in a lean angle readout in there, and that's something that is great fun to check out, especially when you're out on track. Now that last bit is part of the higher spec, more expensive bike menu. Still, even the base model of the TVS RTR 310 gets a good amount of features. Base spec model comes with a slipper clutch, adjustable levers, dual channel ABS, cruise control, traction control, drag torque control system which is new, and rear wheel lift protection. While you'll have to shell out extra for that lovely bidirectional quick shifter. The BTO Dynamic Kit includes the fully adjustable Kayaba suspension system, the TPMS, a brass coated chain, while with the BTO Dynamic Pro Kit, well, that comes with features like keyless ignition, launch control, cornering traction control, cornering ABS, wheelie control, and slope dependent control. For our test out here today, we were given the bike in the Arsenal Black colorway with the Dynamic Pro Kit on there, so as to get a chance to check out what these upgraded electronics actually do for the bike, especially out at the pacey coast circuit out here in Coimbatore. After riding this bike around for half a day out on the road and mostly out on the circuit, I'm still led to believe that, like before, the base variant with the bidirectional quick shifter on comes across as the best iteration of this motorcycle, that is if you're on a budget. And obviously, the more you fancy customizing your suspension, or even if you want some added electronics on there, well, the BTO models continue to give you that option. Now, another very welcome change with this motorcycle, well, this updated one at least, comes in the form of engine refinement. Now, something that you'll really appreciate about this motorcycle is the fact that TVS have in fact changed the piston and the rings of this motorcycle. They have added a new forged piston and obviously some new rings in there as well. And your throttle transitions on and off are a lot more smoother than before. In essence, what this new drag torque control system does is regulate the spark and fuel injection into the motor by monitoring the speed of the bike, the amount of throttle input, and the wheel slip at the rear, so as to keep the bike's momentum going as smooth as possible. TVS has kept the power output of this liquid-cooled motor at 35.6 PS while retaining the minimum torque output to 27.3 Nm. Yes, kind of a bummer, I know, because TVS hasn't given it the bump in power like they did with the last update carried out with the fully fed RR 310 model. And the manufacturer says that this was done intentionally to give the RTR 310 different character traits, which in a way is understandable. Now, previously, the Street Naked used to feel very twitchy at low revs and overly anxious to accelerate from the get-go. And while you still have to employ the clutch quite a bit initially because this bike still doesn't know how to take off smoothly from under 2000 RPM, well, acceleration overall has definitely improved in terms of smoothness and linearity. It's a lot more rider friendly and it feels a lot more composed when you're in the mood for a relaxed ride, especially around the 4000 RPM mark. Now, this is still quite a noisy engine, but thankfully the level of vibrations has reduced. There is a buzz that creeps into the bar at around 5500 RPM, and it only gets intrusive the closer you are to the red line, but that's a lot more acceptable than before, you see, because previously it used to get really vibey at around 6000 RPM, which is really where the party starts with this reverse incline motor. The bidirectional quick shifter is still a party piece on this bike, and like before, performance is brisk in the more responsive ride modes. And I'm happy that TVS haven't played around with the rider triangle or the chassis for that matter, because these aspects didn't really need any alteration to begin with. The riding posture that the RTR 310 will make you assume isn't overly committed, which is fine considering that it's a naked street bike, and I think it's still more relaxed a riding position than some of the lower capacity RTR models in the TVS lineup, to be honest. But the more you fancy going hot into a corner out on track, the more you'll want to stiffen up your suspension and swap out those stock foot pegs for a raced set. The agility and ease in changing direction with this 169 kg bike and its 1385 wheelbase remains a highlight. Aided well by a competent sintered brake setup that provides a good amount of feedback, and the dual compound Michelin Road 5 tires, well, they too fill you with a good sense of confidence when you're out on the road pushing for pace. Alright, now to wrap things up with this updated for 2025 RTR 310 model. Now what TVS have done with this bike is, well, to be honest, just make it a better proposition in terms of ownership, because, well, the main reason that people really turned away from this bike was the fact that it was overpriced. Although it did have a good amount of features, good amount of tech in there, really capable as well. Although it was more powerful than a 200cc motorcycle, it didn't really have the finesse or the punch of a 400cc single cylinder, which have become pretty much the norm nowadays. And more importantly, it has improved in terms of refinement. It is a lot more rider friendly, and of course the cherry on top has to be the pricing, which TVS have revised. The base model, well, the base model, which comes with a decent amount of features, will set you back by around 2,40,000 rupees. The top variant, which is technically the mid-spec variant, well, that will set you back by around 2,57,000 rupees. And the BTO models, well, they start you off at around 2,75,000 rupees. Now these are all introductory prices, susceptible to change over the course of time. Now this effectively means that the RTR 310 is finally a lot more sensibly priced compared to something like, say, the Triumph Speed 400 or the Honda CB300R in terms of overall packaging. But how the market responds to this 310cc motorcycle that's punching above its weight in a country that's currently overwhelmed with a variety of 400cc single-cylinder gems is yet to be seen. And what is really nice is the fact that TVS haven't really mucked about with what this bike was meant to do, what people appreciated about the bike, and they have made alterations to, well, aspects that this bike seemed to be falling short on.
Well, that's it then from us on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms, and you can write to us on YouTube. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.